Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Movies That Matter. I'm your host, Chris Flaherty. Thank you for joining us again after another extended hiatus. May the 4th be with you. It is Star Wars Day as we are recording this. And as anyone does on Star Wars Day, we're here to talk about Mary Poppins.
Absolutely.
And my guest this evening is Stephanie Azzarello. Stephanie, how are you?
I'm so good. I'm so excited.
I'm glad you're here. Stephanie is a fellow Quinnipiac graduate, like me, class of 2016, a psychology major. She is a clinic supervisor for the Medicine Center at Boston Children's Hospital. That's wrong.
The Developmental Medicine Center.
Oh, I wrote it down. Oops. Can you repeat that for them?
Sure. I'm the clinic supervisor for the Developmental Medicine Center at Boston Children's Hospital.
Okay, I had medicine down, but I dropped development for some reason. Anyway, but we're also, we're former roommates, we're former dance partners, we're former co-hosts for dance shows. There's a lot of history here, folks.
Yes.
But I'm so glad I could finally get you on the podcast.
Me too.
And we're here to talk with, I believe it's your favorite movie.
Yes.
Yes, Mary Poppins.
Yes.
Shall we just get right into it?
Let's do it.
All right, so Stephanie, in your own words, can you tell us what this film is about?
So Mary Poppins is the story of a magical nanny who comes into the lives of two sort of neglected children from a wealthy family. And she kind of helps reunite their estranged family and takes them on this magical, fantastic adventure along the way.
Mm-hmm. Through classic hand-drawn animation and lots of nice special effects.
Yes.
How did you learn about this film? What was your first exposure to it?
I truly don't remember my first exposure to the film. Mm-hmm. I can almost guarantee that my first viewing of it, whenever that was, probably when I was preschool age, was at my mom's house because she would pick us up from the bus after preschool, and we would go and hang out at her house until my mom was done with work. Mm-hmm. So I definitely saw it at her house for the first time. It was just part of her VHS collection. Mm-hmm. And it was one of my favorite things to watch all through my childhood and into adulthood, too.
Did your mom always watch it with you, or did she just put the VHS in and then leave the room?
I feel like I watched it by myself a lot. Okay. She was probably there. Mm-hmm. It's just, like I said, I truly don't remember the first time I saw it. It's just, in my mind, it's just, like, always been a part of me. I was that young.
Nice. So I guess, do you remember the first time you watched it?
Not even kind of.
Okay. Preschool age, that's fair.
Yes.
What stuck out with you in, like, the first time you remember watching it? What really stuck out to you?
So I remember being, like, really blown away by the effects in the movie. Mm-hmm. Like, the whole idea of, like, snapping my fingers and, like, my room would clean itself. Mm-hmm. I always wanted to be able to do that. I was always fascinated by the scene where Mary Poppins is taking everything out of her carpet bag. Yes. And the kids are always so confused. And even, like, watching it today, it's really impressive the way that they put that scene together and, like, purposely make Michael, like, go under the table and sort of mess with the effects of it so that, like, it makes it look that much more legitimate, even though you can see the line.
Yeah.
And I always just... I loved the costumes, I loved the singing, I loved the dancing. Like, all of it to me was just spectacular.
Yeah. Glad you brought up dancing, because we're going to talk about that later. But the children are almost like a vessel for us, because we don't know how they're doing it. Well, we know now because we've learned. We've done our research. Mm-hmm. But I think on set, the children didn't really know what was going on either.
No, and in fact, they had certain specific things where they did not tell them ahead of time what was going to happen, and so their reactions in the movie are legitimate.
Right.
There's a scene where after they come out of the rain, they have to take their medicine.
Yes.
And she pours their medicine into their spoons, and Michael's medicine, I think, is red.
Yep.
And Jane's is green. And the actress who played Jane lets out this little shriek when her medicine is poured, and it's because she genuinely did not know that it was going to be a different color and was so confused and like caught off guard that it was a different color.
Yeah. Do you remember how they did that?
I actually have no idea how they did that.
All right. I was hoping you did.
No.
Okay. So we talked about what stuck with you in the first viewing and stuff. How did you really foster a connection with this film? Was it the characters? Was it the story?
I guess a little bit of both. I consider my dad a very serious man, as George Banks is.
Not Joe Azzarello.
Yes. Surprising, I know. So it was always really nice to watch the movie and see him like come around at the end and like really connect with his kids.
Yeah.
But I also just like fell in love with the character of Mary Poppins and from an early age wanted to be just like her.
She's a very positive person.
She is. And she is so like effortlessly graceful. She's clever. She's definitely the smartest person in every room. And she's sassy, and like she doesn't put up with people and their crap, and nobody really thinks twice about it.
No.
In the whole movie, and I think that that's really impressive considering that it came out in 1964.
Yeah, to be that female figure, and like the whole thing is like we meet the mother, and she's all about votes for women and rights for women and stuff, and then here comes Mary Poppins, and she's like, I don't need to campaign, like this is how I'm going to be. Just deal with it.
Right.
Like, I love the job interview. Well, it's not even an interview. She's just, like, telling him, like, these are what I need.
Yeah.
And he's just baffled the whole time.
Right. He's just all caught up on, like, how did you possibly get the advertisement that my children wrote that I definitely ripped up and I definitely threw it in the chimney. And he's, like, going through the process and retracing his steps. I tore it up. I threw it in there. And she's just looking at him. I beg your pardon. Are you ill?
Yep.
And he's like, maybe.
I think that's one of my favorite scenes in the film where, like, he bangs his head.
Repeatedly.
And he, just that primal, like, ow is hilarious to me. So, speaking of scenes, favorite scenes or moments in the film?
I have always loved Jolly Holiday. I literally pause the movie every single time during that song. Once Mary Poppins and Bert get to their little bistro table with the penguins, and Bert is going through this list of women that are lovely women, but they just simply do not compare to Mary Poppins. And one of the women's names is Stephanie. And every single time I get to that part in the movie, I pause the movie and I look at whoever I'm watching it with, and I say, and because he says Stephanie's smashing, and I pause it and I look at that person and I say, I'm smashing. And I press play again, and we can continue.
Thank God for streaming, because you probably would have wore the DVD out pausing it.
Oh, absolutely, or the VHS.
Yeah. I love the Jolly Holiday sequence, and I think it blew my mind from a very young age to see real people in a cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I wanted to know how I could dance with animated penguins at a very young age. And then we learned about the chroma key and stuff.
Yeah, which I learned about 2 days ago.
Oh.
Because I I did not actually know quite how that worked. I assumed it was some sort of green screen something.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And Nick insisted to me, as we were watching it the other night, that green screen did not in fact exist, Stephanie. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And
no, it's just like, it was like the pre-green screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he actually looked it up. And he was like, oh, this is actually, like, very impressive.
Yeah, it was blue.
Yeah, it was blue, and if the lighting wasn't just right, then you would get this halo around the actors. And so this man, Petro Valos,
yeah,
I
that
think
sounds
I'm
about right.
pronouncing his name correctly.
Mm-hmm.
He came up with this brand new, innovative way of combining live action and animation and these, backgrounds, where he used sodium gas because it had a very, very specific color. And he could isolate that color so much more easily. And because of that, the Jolly Holiday sequence looks as beautiful to this day as it does. If they were still using like a blue screen or something instead, you would not be able to see Mary Poppins' hat and her, the mesh veil that she's got going on.
Yep.
It just would not be a substantial enough material. Nobody would be able to wear the color blue.
No. Does anyone wear the color blue?
In that sequence, Bert's bow tie, I believe, and his socks are blue.
Okay. Because I never pictured the blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also the stripes in his jacket are yellow.
Right.
And the gas was such a specific shade that was okay.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm looking at our notes. Spoonful of sugar. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just, like I said before, I love the idea of just being able to, like, to this day, I wish I could just snap my fingers and, like, watch all of the things in my bedroom or in my home just, like, put themselves right back where they're supposed to go. And I remember being so fascinated when I was young by the robin that comes and, like, perches on her hand. And the older I got, the more obvious it was to me that this was clearly animatronic. But I didn't learn until later on just how, like, involved the contraption itself was. It was, like, all the way up her arm under her costume.
That's crazy.
As she controlled it. And she actually does the whistling that the bird does.
I think I need to go back and watch that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
She's not whistling, like, at
I
the
don't
time
think so.
with the
No,
bird.
no.
So it must have been
In
like,
post.
in post or
Yeah.
something. I went to college for film at some point, long time ago. Are there any songs or quotes that really stick out in your memory?
Songs and quotes.
We already talked about Stephanie smashing.
Yes. I absolutely love the line from Sister Suffragette in the beginning where Winifred says, "Though we adore men individually, we agree that as a group, they're rather stupid." And I just,
Fair.
feel that to my core. And I feel really bad about it sometimes, but especially, like, given the state of our world sometimes, I'm like, this would just be so much easier if women were running the show. And I think it just really speaks to the fact that, like, women are very capable and we can get things done, and men are not always very good at that.
I'm not going to disagree with that.
Great.
Very timeless messages and themes throughout this film.
Yes.
And Mary Poppins is very much a nice role model even today.
Absolutely.
In a very negative world, she doesn't take anybody's... Oh, this will air past 11. I'll still anybody's flack.
Yes.
And just stay positive in this very negative world. And I think that's something that is admirable even to this day.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by what you've put here. Did you copy paste it? You have on. Yeah, say it.
Okay. Docious ali expiasticfragicalalupus. That is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious backwards, and I have always loved that moment in the song, just because everyone is completely like dumbfounded, especially Bert when she says it, and she's like, "That's going a little bit too far, though." Like, and he's like, "Absolutely, indubitably." Like, what?
Yeah, it's great.
So I love that. And then I think the line that she says, I want to say it's right before "Spoonful of Sugar." Well begun is half done.
Yes.
And that has been a motto that I think I've really tried to carry into my life. It's very easy to get overwhelmed with projects, with tasks, and to be able to like remind myself, I just have to start it. If I start it, then it'll all start to feel manageable. But I have to start. And it wasn't a phrase that I really understood when I was younger watching it, and it's been really nice as I've gotten older and still have this appreciation for the film to hear that, and you know, to have that point where I was like, oh, that's what that means.
I don't think I knew what it meant till just now.
Yeah.
Until you just explained it to me. Wow.
There you go. You learned something new today.
That changed me. That was beautiful.
Isn't it?
That changed me. We've talked about some of the songs in the movie. Shall we just spend a minute on all the songs? Sure. And then we can get into dancing too while we're at it.
Sure.
What is your favorite song?
Oh, I really like "Stay Awake," which was a song that Julie Andrews worked really hard on.
Yes,
she did so many takes of it because she wanted to get the quality of her voice just right for it. She needed it to be soft. She needed it to sound and feel like a lullaby. And I have like always dreamed of singing that song to my children.
Let's not try to make me cry on the mic, okay?
I think I've always gotten a real kick out of "I Love to Laugh."
Oh my god.
It's just it's just so fun to hear her mock people's styles of laughter and to just call everybody out on their ridiculousness. And I think that like in my life I have been accused before of being too serious of a person, and so I just love that like there's this moment where she's like, no, you all are just ridiculous and there's no need for you to be acting this way.
I can't help but laugh in that scene, especially because when you think about it, Bert calls them over because he found Uncle Albert like that. Yes. And then they leave, and nothing's changed, but now Bert's got the giggles too. So they just there's a point, doesn't he?
No. So they get there.
Right.
They're having this serious conversation. Like, you don't know what you're going to walk into now.
Right.
Because she's like, how is he? Oh, I've never seen him this bad. They get into the room. Uncle Albert is on the ceiling, laughing his butt off. And Jane and Michael are getting a real kick out of it. And Bert's saying, hey, listen, last time it took us like a week to get him down. And he starts laughing. He ends up there.
Yep.
And then throughout the course of the song, as they are singing about how they love to laugh, the kids end up on the ceiling as well.
Right.
And they're all stuck up there. And then Mary Poppins finally just gives in and says, okay, I guess I'll come up too.
She just floats up.
Yeah, she's like, might as well have tea while we're here. And then they all come down when she announces, okay, guys, we need to leave now. And they just sort of leave Uncle Albert and Bert sitting on the floor crying together.
Right, they're crying. Yeah.
Consoling each other.
I forget what did they say to get them to come down?
She said, it's time to leave. And they said, oh, that's sad.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's very sad. Because that's the way that you get the person to come down, is you have to think of something sad. Right.
There was like a joke, I can't remember what it was, where they started to go down, but then the punchline came and they...
Yes. Uncle Albert starts telling the story about the neighbor, and she gets approached by this man who says, I'm terribly sorry, I just ran over your cat.
Right.
And the children are like, oh my God, that's so sad. And I'm trying to remember. He says, I'd like to replace your cat. And she says, well, that's fine, but how are you at catching mice? Right. And then they all just soar back up to the ceiling.
That's it. I'm partial to the wooden leg joke.
A wooden leg
named Smith.
What's the name of his other leg?
Do you have any thoughts on Feed the Birds?
I do love Feed the Birds.
That's my favorite song.
That was Walt Disney's favorite song.
I was going to say that. Yes. But I'm glad you did, because you're the guest. I'm just the host.
And apparently, all he had to do when he saw the Sherman Brothers, for those who don't know, that wrote all the music for the songs, for the movie.
And many other Disney things of that era.
He literally just had to say to them, play it. And they would know exactly which song he was talking about.
That's beautiful. I love that song.
It is.
Yeah. Step in Time. That's a perfect segue into the dancing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of real lyrics going on there.
No.
But
it's just dancing.
The dancing is very impressive. The effects that they use are really impressive as they're running around on the rooftops. And I have always wanted to be Mary Poppins in the moment where, like, they come and scoop her up and, like, she's just being switched around from partner to partner to partner. And then, like, she sort of challenges them to a dance battle, almost.
Kind of.
Like, and, like, completely outdances them all.
Yep.
With this giant flying spin that she does.
Yeah.
And she just sort of lands, looks back at them, nods, and she's like, and that's all for me. Thank you very much.
That's how it's done. Was it ever in the cards for us to do a Mary Poppins routine at Quinnipiac Ballroom?
I don't think so, unfortunately, because I just, thinking about it, I don't genuinely know what song I would have done, and I feel like there was never really a specific style that, like, would have gone with it. Like, I've seen them do things here and there on Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
And they just never quite hit right for me. Maybe it's just because I'm too biased.
Yeah.
But
if anyone from the Quinnipiac Ballroom Society is listening, some alumni have thrown down a challenge for you. And on that, as we transgress back into our youth,
yes.
It's fair to say you've watched this film a fair amount of times in your life.
Yes.
Are there any, like, specific rewatches that are, like, any times you've watched it that have really stuck out in your memory?
The one that really does.
I know what you're going to talk about. And when I was reading your notes, like, you unlocked a core memory for me.
So,
where is it in my notes?
I I went with Nick to see Mary Poppins Returns when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very stressful time for me going into it because I was like, oh my god, this needs to be good. Mm-hmm. I had such high expectations, and I was like, if this movie is bad, I am going to be devastated. We go. It was lovely.
Mm-hmm.
We get back in the car, and we were talking, and I said something about the original film, and he says to me, well, I haven't actually, like, seen the original, like, all the way through, but, like, I'm pretty sure I know how it ends. And I just stared at him, and I said, of all the times I have sat through one Star Wars movie or another, and you are telling me that you have never seen my favorite movie ever. I was like, forget the fact that it's my favorite. For a moment. For a brief moment, let's let that slide. You went to school for film. This is the definition of a classic. How have you not seen this film? And how could you say to me, I'm pretty sure I know how it ends? No, I don't think you do. And so we went home. It was too late at that point, but I think the next day I was like, okay, and now we're going to watch the original, and then you're going to take me back to see the sequel again, so that you can actually say that you watched these in the order that you were supposed to see them. But it was really nice to watch it with him, and to actually see someone exposed to everything for the first time. Because it has been a very long time since I have actually watched it with someone who has not seen it before.
This is her fiancé, listeners.
Yes.
You can listen to his episode 2, Back to the Future Matters, streaming now.
Little plug.
If you want to go back and listen to some old episodes. Yeah, I was living with you two at the time, and I'm surprised he stayed in the house after that.
Yeah, that was one of those nights where I was like, I think that you should stay on the couch. I'm mad.
I was baffled because, like, I didn't see it till I think high school, and people were still like, aren't you Mr. Disney? How have you not seen this?
Right.
So.
Well, and that's the other thing. He is also Mr. Disney.
Right.
So, go figure.
I don't know. In your most recent rewatch, did anything like click for you? Anything new come to your head have you seen this again and again?
I think the one thing has been that I've become keenly aware of how, like, not bothered people are at the beginning when, like, children are actually missing. Like, it takes until their father comes home for the police to be called that these children are missing. Katie Nana, their nanny at the very beginning of the movie, literally is like, they ran away from me, I quit. And their mother is like, no, please don't quit. Where, like, Winifred really should be like, no. You have to find them. I don't care what you do after that. Find my children. Where are my children?
The mother is very, is it lackadaisical? Is that a fair thing to say?
Sure. She's...
Because she's very, like, passionate about her cause and stuff.
Yes, but she's sort of oblivious, I would say, to her responsibilities as a parent.
Right.
And being a parent is difficult.
Yes.
And I think that there are a lot of people who have found themselves having children, and then really questioning, like, am I cut out for this?
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of good parents have that thought.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who truly don't enjoy being parents have that thought. And, you know, P.L. Travers kind of thought of her character in this way. You know, being a mother is a job, and it's a hard job, and it's not a job that everyone's cut out for. And therefore, it is essential that they have a nanny so that the children are cared for the way that they should be.
It's interesting you bring up the parenting issue, just because, like, how your perspective changes on this film might depend whether you are a child or whether you are a parent. Because a child...
absolutely.
Yeah. And I feel like we're kind of in that sweet spot right now where we understand both sides.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely, like, understand the father's side. Like, he is struggling to provide, but maybe that's not what he needs to do, like, to be at work all the time. I think he just needs to spend time with his children and enjoy life. I also see the child's perspective of, like, they just want to have fun, and, like, all these idiot adults aren't listening to them, except Mary Poppins. It's like Disney's version of a Lemony Snicket book, where all the adults are idiots and the children are suffering, and no one seems to understand. But yeah, it's interesting how, as we grow, our perspective on movies change.
Yeah, definitely. I think the older I get, the more I really resonate when I hear George singing his song. It's sort of a reprise to the song that he originally sings about in the beginning of the movie, about a British bank.
Yeah.
As Bert is trying to clean up all the chimney sweep stuff, he sort of has this moment of reflection where he's like, oh my God, his children, he tried to bring them to the bank. It went horribly. Right. And he just cannot believe that he has worked so hard to try and achieve and to try and provide and to try and make his mark in the world. And it's going to all be taken away because he's going to be fired because of the scene that was caused
by his
children, quote unquote, at the bank. Because really, we know that Michael was kind of innocent, in everything that happened.
They tried to steal his money.
Yeah, and it wasn't fair for them to tell him, you have to give us your tuppence. You can't keep it for yourself. You can't use it for what you want it to. The responsible thing is to put it in an account. So give it to us and let us put it in an account. But because they did not act like little adults, because they acted like children, he gets in trouble and gets fired for it. And it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. But I think it's again another timeless message, is that so many of us, like, measure our success in our jobs.
Yes. And
I think the job is the movie is trying to say that, like, the workforce is not the way.
Yeah. And it's nice to see him make that switch and realize that the truly important thing is his family. Right. And his children. And that's where he needs to be focusing his attention anyway. And as soon as he does, everything turns around for him.
Right. Yeah, they give him his job back.
Yeah. As a partner.
Yeah. Because the guy died.
Yes.
Laughing, though.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think we covered a lot of the important messages or themes in this film. I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add to that.
I don't think there's anything left for that.
All right. What do you think allows audiences to connect with Mary Poppins after all these years?
I just think that it has a universal message about family.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that will stand the test of time no matter what.
Yeah.
I also think that, like I said, she's kind of a trailblazer, and she's a little bit of a feminist icon, I think, in her own rights.
Absolutely.
And I think that will always age well also. Mm-hmm. And people will always appreciate seeing that. And I also just think that I certainly have had this experience. I feel like people take comfort in her.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's firm but kind and caring, and she has it all handled.
Right.
And I think it's a character that people can feel very safe with, because not only is she magical and she's going to make it fun, but she's also going to keep you safe and watch out for you and make sure that everything's okay.
Absolutely. As much as everyone loves Mary Poppins, there was one woman who didn't.
Yes.
And ironically enough, it was her creator, P.L. Travers, the original author of the book.
Yes.
How do we feel about that?
It's sad. It's sad to me that she ended up disliking the final film as much as she did. She did really like Julie Andrews.
Yeah. That was about it.
That was really all that got her seal of approval. And Saving Mr. Banks really explores the ins and outs of that. Which, on a whole other level, was really cool for me. Seeing that movie, just to learn all of that backstory.
I love that movie.
But yeah, she wanted the entire thing to be live action. She did not want any animation. So she really didn't like the Jolly Holiday sequence. She also didn't really appreciate what they did with the character of George Banks. She had written him differently, and he was supposed to be modeled after her father,
right? And
she idolized her father, and so it was very difficult for her to see them harden him the way that they did. And just all in all, I think she felt like they took this wonderful thing that she cared so very much about, and they made it what Walt Disney wanted it to be. And it in learning about like how Walt sort of advocated for his vision for this film, it's very clear that to me that it's very hard to not give Walt Disney what he wants.
Right.
Like the way that he went after Julie Andrews, the way that he went after the woman who played the Bird Woman, even. He was very specific about who he wanted for characters, and he knew what kind of film he wanted to make. And he made some concessions, I think, for her, but ultimately he made the movie that he wanted to make. And she wanted him to change it after the premiere.
Yeah.
And he kind of famously said to her, "That ship has sailed, Pamela."
That's not how this works.
Yeah, it's done.
It was a very unique working relationship, not just for like Disney, but for Hollywood in general. Like for an author to have that much say.
Yes. And it was, I think, just because she held off on actually handing over the rights to the story for as long as she did. She kind of kept it in her back pocket and said, well, we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, they were actively making this movie.
And they didn't have the
rights.
Yeah.
Which is risky.
Yes. It's a bold strategy.
It paid off.
Yes.
I think Saving Mr. Banks is very... I don't think it sugarcoats it too much. I mean, when you're Disney telling Disney history, I think you want to, like,
there's
not show your founder in a poor light.
Yeah, there definitely has to be some revisionist history going on there, a little bit.
I think how they handled it, though, like, at the end, kind of, like, worked out. Because, like, she's crying.
Yeah.
And, like, she says she can't abide by cartoons. And I'm like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's ambiguous enough. You can get away with that.
Yeah.
I wonder what she would think of Mary Poppins Returns if she were still around.
I would imagine that she would probably dislike it nearly as much as the original. But I think that hopefully, at least with Mary Poppins Returns, she would be able to see that the character that they were putting on screen was further removed from the one that she had created. So, I don't know, maybe she would be able to see it as a different person entirely, even though it was still technically Mary Poppins.
Right. And they didn't adapt any of the books for Mary Poppins Returns, right?
I don't believe so, no. I think it was a completely original screenplay. And if you watch it, there's a lot of elements that are very similar to the original film and plot points that sort of overlap from film to film. Sort of the way that A New Hope and The Force Awakens kind of go hand in hand. Like, there's certain marks that they hit in both films that you're like, this is how I know that this is a Mary Poppins film, because this happened, and then we jumped into a world that is not where we are, and there's hand-drawn animation here, and we come back out, and we have this incident at the bank, and then we go home.
You know, I think, like, when I think of Mary Poppins Returns, it's like, yeah, this is gonna seem familiar to you, but there's effort here, and there's passion here.
Yeah.
So, enjoy.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it was particularly fitting, and I don't know if this was the intention. I'd like to assume that it was. I love Lin-Manuel Miranda. His accent was, like, at least as bad as Dick Van Dyke's. And I don't know if that was intentional, that they were like, you know what? It's an homage.
It probably was intentional.
But it was just really funny to me. Listening to him, I was like, oh, this man is so not English.
But he was trying. He was trying his best.
He was.
And how could you not have Lin-Manuel Miranda in your big film musical?
Absolutely.
In 2018.
Yes.
At the height of his career.
Yes.
Yeah. And he did great.
He did.
And Emily Blunt did great, too.
Oh, she was fabulous.
I still wish to this day that the balloon lady, played by Angela Lansbury.
Yes.
I really kind of wish that was Julie Andrews. As much as I love Angela Lansbury.
Yeah. Or I would have been okay with at the end of the film when she's looking into the balloon.
Oh my god.
If, like, the reflection looking back at her was Julie Andrews' face.
Would have broke me.
But she was very adamant that this is Emily Blunt's movie.
Mm-hmm.
I am not getting involved in it. I am not interfering. I am not even going to, create the potential that she will be overshadowed.
Right.
Because I had my moment. I did the character already. I don't need to go back.
And I respect that.
Yes.
I respect that. This is random. I have seen this film during 2 very specific times of the year on TV.
Okay.
Christmas.
Yeah.
And Easter.
Interesting.
Yeah. For some reason, ABC Family, back when it was called ABC Family, it played on Christmas, and then it played it on Easter. Christmas, I kind of get. Easter, I'm not sure.
See,
what are your thoughts there?
I would actually think the opposite, because it takes place in spring.
Right.
So I sort of get why it would come out around Easter. And it's sort of a movie about rebirth in a way.
Ooh.
So I
like that.
So I get that connection, sort of. I don't understand why it would ever be considered a Christmas movie. It's a family movie.
It's a family movie, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's the logic.
There's no Christmas there at all.
No, not even kind of.
I think maybe just because Mary Poppins Returns came out around Christmas.
Maybe.
I don't know. Everyone has their random holiday movies.
Yeah.
Like, we'll let the Die Hard people have their Die Hard.
Oh, gosh.
Even though Die Hard actually does take place on Christmas. But that's an argument for another day. Many consider Mary Poppins to be Walt Disney's best film, his quote-unquote crowning achievement.
Yes.
Agree or disagree?
Oh, I totally agree.
Okay, good.
First of all, it won more Oscars on its own than any other movie that Disney has ever produced.
That he himself produced. Right?
Even Disney as a company now, there has never been a film that it has released that has won that many Oscars.
Take that, Frozen.
Because and the amount of nominations as well. I mean, when was the last time that a Disney film was nominated for Best Picture? It didn't win, but it was nominated.
Nominated? I mean, we could, if we're going to split hairs, we'll say 2010 with Toy Story 3.
Okay.
There's a Pixar
owned
by Disney.
Sure.
In-house, 91 with Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Julie Andrews won Best Actress. She also won the Golden Globe.
Yep.
For this, and famously thanked the man who did not choose her.
I love this.
For My Fair Lady, because she was My Fair Lady on Broadway.
Yes.
She was Eliza Doolittle in My Fair Lady on Broadway, and then they chose Audrey Hepburn for the movie adaptation, and she famously thanked him,
Mr. Warner.
Yep, for not choosing her for the movie, because technically he made it all possible for her to win by not picking her.
Disney ups Warner Brothers again. I think just him as a person, I think it's a massive achievement, not just for him, but for the company.
Absolutely. And especially in his lifetime. Yeah. It definitely was the most successful film that Disney released.
Yeah, and he definitely had, it was his passion project.
Absolutely.
I think. His daughters read the book.
Right.
And they gave it to him, and they were like, can you make this a movie? And he was like, yeah, I can do that. And then, as we know, he put up with a lot to get it made. Was it ethical how he made it? I think it's fine.
Yeah, well, and like you said, it was his passion project, and nobody will ever be able to argue that he didn't put everything he could into it.
Right.
I mean, he went to see Camelot on Broadway, fell in love with Julie Andrews as an actress, offered her the part. She said, like, I'm flattered, I would love to, but I'm pregnant. And he said, that's okay, we'll wait.
Yeah.
And she said, oh, okay. But I also, I might be asked to perform in My Fair Lady. And they might select me for this film as well. And he said, that's okay.
I'll wait.
We'll wait for that too. And luckily for him, they didn't need to wait quite that long.
No.
But he was willing. And nobody will ever be able to say that he didn't fight for the film that he wanted.
Right.
And he had a vision. And you can't say it didn't work.
No, I think it's one of those, I haven't read the book. I know you will.
Yes.
Eventually.
I'm very excited to.
Good.
I've never owned the books before.
You're welcome. Mary Birthmas. I think it's one of those rare times a film adaptation is better than the book. I think I could say that confidently. Peel Travers, don't come for me. I don't need a ghost. But I do believe that to be the case.
Yeah, well, I think that she created a wonderful character. She was obviously very attached to the character. But I think that because Mary Poppins in her original works, because it's a lot of shorter stories, and because there's all these different adventures going on, I think the character needed someone to kind of create this larger cohesive plot line and story surrounding everything. So, I know that it's very different from what she envisioned, but I think that it was for the best.
Obviously we can't talk to her now, but I think the reason the film is so successful is because there was so much of her in that original book. And I think when you share a part of yourself in art, that's what elevates it to a new level. So thank you, Mrs. Travers, for trusting Mr. Disney, or I guess lack thereof trust. But anyway, we're not talking to a ghost tonight. No. Stephanie, as we approach the end of the evening, I'm going to turn it back inward towards you.
Okay.
How do you think this film has informed who you are, if at all?
I would like to be practically perfect in every way, literally all the time.
Wouldn't we all?
It truly, this film and this character has influenced so much of who I am. I aspire to be her. And it's so unrealistic in many senses, but like I said, I'm a pretty serious person a lot of the time. But I am caring, and I would like to think, fairly kind.
You are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So it was really, really important to me growing up to be able to look up to this character that also shared those qualities and was celebrated for them. And so I really modeled a lot of myself after her. And then I think there are definitely worse characters to model yourself after.
For sure.
And to look up to.
For sure. Yeah, I can, having known you for a lot of years.
Count them right now.
Okay. To carry the 7.
Exactly.
9.
Sure.
It's 9. It is.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, because I graduated as a senior when you were a freshman. So 2013. It's 2022.
Yes.
That's 9? Maybe? Yeah, it's 9.
I don't do mental math.
It's 9. Well, you told me to do math, so.
I told you to do mental math.
Okay. Yeah, you did. That's what I just said.
That's why I said I believe you, because
Okay.
I can't do it.
The point I'm trying to make is, Stephanie, having known you for the better part of a decade, having
Yikes.
gone to school with you, having spent so much time with you, having lived with you, and also after this hour of podcasting and talking about Mary Poppins, I see this character in you.
Oh, thank you.
A lot. I really do.
Yay.
And
I did it.
you haven't brought it up, but I'm going to bring it up now. Your recipe book, what's it called?
Oh, my mom made that for me. She made me a binder, and it's Stephanie's Practically Perfect Recipes.
Love it.
And
Love it.
when she gave it to me, I was like, oh my God, yes. And none of them, virtually, none of them are actually like my original anything.
We're going to edit that part out.
But that's okay.
It's her recipes.
It's all
She
me.
made them. Okay, and then I guess my final question to you, Stephanie, is why does Mary Poppins matter to you? Just to wrap it all up on a nice little bow.
Well,
With a nice little bow.
like I said, it's shaped who I am in a lot of ways. And Julie Andrews is a treasure.
Yes.
And it matters for that reason, especially, I think. But I think there's just a lot of good life lessons that the film teaches. And as we've talked about, like they are things that you can carry through life. And I think it's really nice and really important to see it and allow ourselves to be reminded of those lessons when we need it.
And that is a practically perfect way to wrap this up. So
Yay.
I'm so glad you could finally come on the pod.
Me too.
It's been a pleasure. I always say to my guests, I hope you'll come back, but I know you'll come back.
Yes. Part
And-
2 is Sound of Music.
Okay. Is Nick going to join us for that one?
Ooh, maybe.
We can
He does love that movie.
get you both in here for a double episode. There's more than 2 mics in here. Folks, this has been Movies That Matter. I've been your host, Chris Flaherty. Stephanie, thank you again for coming in.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Folks, if you'd like to get in touch with me about the show, any movie recommendations, or just general thoughts, you can reach me at moviesthatmatterpod@gmail.com. It's also the same on Instagram. And if you tweet, it's Movies That Matter, but you take away the second T in that. So just say Movies That Matter with a funny accent. And as I always say, the real world, is not so great right now. So when times get tough, just take some time to escape into your favorite movie or TV show. Entertainment is subjective, and that is not a bad thing. Again, this has been Movies That Matter. I've been Chris Flaherty. Good night.